Remote roles you didn't know existed. Next one up is marketing and sales, aka bringing in the business. As there has been more done in the remote sphere to market businesses, talk about businesses, this area has grown and expanded, and I've seen this a lot in the type of roles that we hire for clients. So this is going to be a bit longer than some of the other ones we are doing, so stick with us. It is worth it. So the first role that we are talking about is a partnerships or affiliate manager. This person, their role can vary based on the type of business that they're serving, the number of responsibilities they have, which I'll get into here in a second. So the types of needs that they serve are really for, if you have seen bloggers, creators, influencers who have anything on any of their posts or videos or whatever it is with like hashtag ad or hashtag sponsored, or they're talking about a product, it's likely that it was a partnership with a brand where they are promoting that product, hoping that someone who's watching the video will want to sell it. It's a way of advertising. It's beneficial for the influencer because typically they get a cut of that if someone purchases through their link or their code. And it's beneficial for the brands, obviously, because it's a way to market and get eyes on their product. And so when you are a blogger, creator, or influencer or other type of business, those types of deals can balloon and get very overwhelming very quickly. So it can be hard to manage all of them, especially if a entrepreneur is managing that, like a content creator is managing all of that by themselves, and then they start getting more views and start getting more popular. It can be really hard to manage all of that. So a partnerships or affiliate manager can step in to manage those relationships. They can help with creating marketing campaigns and writing emails and scheduling that and working with the brands to make sure that's cohesive. In the case that a content creator is, say, talking with a brand about promoting a new launch of something, whether it's a product or a course or whatever it is, they will want to make sure that the timing is correct with when the launch goes live. So there can be a lot to manage within those types of partnerships and those promotions. And so if you have that one time with one brand, that might not be too bad. But if you have multiple of those going on in a week or 20 happening in a month, that's really hard for one person as the entrepreneur to manage on their own. So as accounts like that start growing and they do more promotion, it's really helpful for them to have someone who can take care of all of that. So they, like I said before, they might be managing emails, marketing campaigns, also staying on top of payouts, either making sure that they receive the payouts or that they send the correct payouts out, depending on which side of the transaction they're on. It can be a lot to handle. So delegating, like I said, to that one person can be super helpful. The types of companies, like I said before, typically this is like bloggers, creators, influencers. Sometimes businesses will promote products that they really like and use. And so sometimes that can be helpful to have an affiliate or partnerships manager. Brands who also are selling products or courses can also want to have affiliate or partnerships managers because they need help managing the relationships on their side. Hours for this, I would say it's probably pretty typical to have maybe at least 10 hours a week for something like this, because it's typically not going to be handed off until there are a certain number of brands and partnerships in order to need a role like that. It can definitely get up to being a full-time job, and that's something I typically see. A lot of companies will also have a full-time person on their side to promote, again, depending on the size of the company, to promote and work with and find influencers and creators to promote their product. The rates can really vary on this because of just what it is. It's a revenue generating role. And so in some cases, there might be some commission tied to it. But for this, you would need a bit more experience around managing deals and sales and being able to have a personality that people want to interact with, things like that. So if I were to give you a ballpark again for hours, it would probably be a minimum of 10. And then again, the rates are all over the place for this, depending on your expertise. Still, if that sounds intriguing to you, or if you need that, then that's definitely a role to look into. The next one is content manager. So businesses create a lot of content, or they should if they want to be seen by people who will pay for their services and products. This can be anything from email marketing, blog posts, social media posts, YouTube, really anything where someone can put out content, whether it's written, video, audio, etc. That can be a lot, again, to manage. So it's helpful to have one point person who's responsible for staying on top of that. They might also manage content creators, so writers, graphic designers, video editors, graphic editors, people who are scheduling the material to go out. This person needs to definitely have a lot of project management experience or be good at managing things like that, because it's definitely necessary to stay on top of so many details so that it goes out on time and it goes out with high quality. This type of person can support any kind of business, but especially people who are doing businesses who are doing a lot of content. It's more likely for these to exist in those types of companies. This role might be within a larger role, like an operations manager, something like that, if the person is not specifically called a content manager. Hours, again, can vary. Like a partnerships manager, I might say maybe it might start at 5 hours a week, depending if they are just managing like the people who are actually doing the content and creating it. Content managers in some cases might also write or do some of the editing or proofreading before content goes out. So that one, again, could vary a little bit based on the business. Okay, next one is content strategist. So trying to figure out what type of content to go out can be very difficult and overwhelming. If you see certain accounts that are starting to pick up some traction and then they stop being consistent, it's likely that they are dealing with some issues with their strategy, or maybe they also need some help with the management of it. A content strategist will help create a plan for exactly what to put out there to have the most impact on the business. So if you are someone who is a great ideas person who can tie topics to the bottom line of a business, if you think that way, this could be a really good role for you. Content strategist can serve a variety of different businesses. Like a lot of these roles that we talk about, it depends on what the business needs are. If an entrepreneur has a hard time coming up with what to talk about, a content strategist would be super helpful. Again, this one in particular helps with a lot of the decision fatigue of, I don't know what to post. That's why there's so much content out there of here's what to post if you don't know. It's essentially a role that a content strategist would. Types of hours, this one's a little bit more vague since this typically is underneath like a social media manager role. It can vary based on the business and the person who is doing this work. So hours, I might say, this might be a little bit more project based on, I need to come up with a number of ideas for a certain client for the month. They are trying to record, 15 reels a month. So I need to come up with 15 ideas for them. So this one might be a little bit less based on hours and more on how efficiently you can come up with those types of ideas. This one in particular is a little bit harder for me to nail down a rate on because of what it is. It's really more about the value it provides. So can be beneficial for a number of reasons and can have a lot of range in terms of hours and pay. Next one is content editor. So a content editor, or in some cases might be called a proofreader, is someone who goes back through content and looks for grammatical errors, misspellings. Does the content make sense? When I'm writing content, I might write a draft and then someone on my team goes back through and edits it to add certain things like emojis to draw the eye to that certain line or to make it a little more sense, things like that. This role might actually be worked into a operations manager role or a content manager role again, but it is important to make sure that good quality content goes out. As far as hours, and again, a lot of these roles can serve any type of company, but it's more related to the needs of the company. The hours, again, can vary as well as the pay. I would say that this one, depending on the type of editing work they're doing, if it's written form, might be a little bit less for the hourly rate. And then if it's like video editing, which is actually a different type of role, that hourly rate could be a lot more expensive. So moving on, after that, we have a graphic designer. So again, we're still in this marketing and sales area. Graphic designers can help to create a lot of material to help sell or promote a product. So rates on this will vary. Again, depends on your expertise and also your style. Graphic designers, like photographers and other stick roles, sometimes tend to have a certain style, and it depends on if there's a certain style that's really in demand, so you could charge a higher hourly rate. Again, hours depend on your efficiency in that type of role. But if you're an artistic person, this is something that you could pursue as well. Photo editor, if you are a former photographer and have done a lot of photo editing, but maybe you no longer want to do the photography side, maybe you don't want to be out doing shoots in the evenings or on weekends, this could be a good one for you to do. Maybe you try and partner up with a photographer who doesn't like to do the editing side, and you can do this remotely. Again, the hours and rates will vary based on expertise and what you decide to charge based on the value that you bring. Video editing is becoming more and more needed because it is required in a lot of cases in order for businesses to be seen to have a video presence. And so video editing is getting a lot more common because entrepreneurs might be okay with creating the content, but after that, they want to just send it off to someone else and let them deal with it. Video editing, if you have this expertise, definitely something that you can start getting into. Again, hours and rate depend on your efficiency and your expertise. Social media, that one's probably going to be a little bit higher than some of the other editing, like general content, written content editing. Social media manager could include a lot of these types of things depending on how that social media manager has structured their services. Or if you are, say, being hired as a full-time social media manager, that will be more based on what the company needs. Or I guess also if you're part-time. Social media managers can make a big impact in a number of ways in what we just talked about. So again, a lot of those things can be wrapped up into that role. In some cases, that's beneficial to have a lot of different services bundled into one person, depending on crossover and again, how good you are in certain areas. If you are not as good as at the strategy side, it might be better for you to work with your clients to do some of the other things and lean on them a little bit more for the ideas, or encourage them to hire a strategist if that's not your expertise, and vice versa. Another role that I don't hear talked about a lot is a social media engagement manager. And what I mean by this is someone who helps to manage the engagement of social media. So this might be with DMs or comments on posts and just helping to stay on top of responding to ones if it only needs like a quick one-word comment. Maybe that's something that the engagement manager can answer. If it's a frequently asked question, that's something that person can answer as well. We're trying to, again, create more time and space for the entrepreneur. This one also can be helpful for managing those critical and comments from trolls that can happen, because not only does that take up time, but it can really mess with the entrepreneur's mental and emotional state. And so having someone who's able to manage that without the entrepreneur ever needing to see it, entrepreneur or content creator ever needing to see it, can be a really valuable role. If different content creators were approached by someone who said that they do this and they want to help protect their mental and emotional stability and just protect them in that way so that they can focus on other things, a lot of content creators would jump at having someone like that, as long as they're trustworthy, obviously. So that can be another very small portion of social media, but it's really beneficial. If you ever see those posts talking about how trolls can really impact someone, they could benefit by having that type of role. If you personally have experienced that, then I would highly encourage you to look into hiring someone to handle that. Another role is a social media scheduler. So for example, if it's a larger company that does a lot of content creation, they have a dedicated content manager and writers and editors, graphic designers, then there might be a need for a specific content scheduler to take all of those things, put it into a scheduling tool, and make sure it goes out. Again, that could be wrapped up into other roles as well. A marketing assistant is a role that could be used in a lot of different companies to encompass a lot of the things I'm talking about. It might also be a role that helps support other people who are more specifically focused on other types of marketing, like email marketing, for example. Maybe a marketing assistant would just assist someone in getting emails out, maybe doing proofreading, things like that. A lot of companies tend to have marketing assistants to help with their marketing efforts, so it can be a good way to get your foot in the door. Another role, like I mentioned, is an email marketer. Some of the hours and the rates on these things will vary really a lot by the role and the type of company they're working for. Just going to keep moving forward through these roles because there's a lot to get through. Email marketer is someone obviously who focuses on email marketing, typically will be a good writer and able to get people to open emails because of their writing. An outreach specialist is someone who might reach out to other companies companies to get to the person they are representing on things like podcasts or do other speaking gigs. Outreach can involve a lot of different things, but podcast is one that I've heard a lot of. That one is a little bit more of, again, a like assistant level role, kind of like a marketing assistant. And so those rates and hours will probably be a little bit on the lower side. I would say maybe 15 to 20 hours on the lower end of it. And then again, if you're really good at it and can get people on to the things that they want to be doing, like speaking gigs, podcasts, etc., your rate can obviously go up. And again, hours might not be too much depending on what the need is there. A podcast production assistant. A lot of podcasts need help in order to get their podcast out and all of the other things that go along with it, such as editing, if there's transcription, getting it uploaded to a website. A podcast production assistant can help with those things. A writer, or also known as a copywriter, like I mentioned, businesses can write so much and need to write so much to help get their message out there, to help support their clients and their students and their community and their customers. So a writer can help with all of those pieces as well. Another role that you might not have heard of before is an SEO content specialist. So this is someone who understands search engine optimization and can help a business to be able to take their content and get it more visible, and so that it's ranking higher in Google. A content specialist might do some of the writing because they're familiar with how to place words in content in order to get it to rank. Again, rates and hours will depend on a variety of factors. Some other roles, web designers and UX designers. Typically, these people are either running their own business and so they have multiple clients so that it's their full-time job, or might also be fully employed by a company. You can obviously hire someone part-time to help you with these areas because it's something that helps your business with your presence. But again, the rates and experience and hours and such will also vary depending on the needs of the business. And then another one on here is Instagram or TikTok content creator. If you are someone who can help to actually create content like Reels or TikTok and minimize the involvement needed by the entrepreneur or the person mainly running the business, that can be that's a new role that's starting to come out, obviously, since that's fairly new platforms, but that can be a big lift off of an entrepreneur's plate, man. That can be a big lift off of a entrepreneur's plate if you're able to manage the full creation and even filming some of that content. Okay, so I ran through a lot of different things. Again, a lot of these hours and rates and such for a lot of these roles can really vary. It depends on past experience and the types of companies you're working for. Let me know what questions you have in the comments. Be sure to subscribe and like this video.